Well, hello. I'm happy you're here with me, and happy Gratitude Day, otherwise known as Thanksgiving. We're going to cover a bunch of the Daily Goody blog posts that I write. So if you're not familiar, every day I write a little mini blog post about podcast production and podcast engineering. And over time, if you read all of them each and every day, or if you read one a day, I should say, you'll slowly gain a ton of knowledge and experience and tips and tricks. And when I say gain experience, you'll gain experience secondhand. So when I say, oh, something I did and it didn't work or whatever, you can learn from my mistakes and all that. So anyway, we're going to cover a bunch of the daily goodies here in this episode. And of course, you probably already know, but the next podcast engineering school semester starts on January 14th, 2020. And today, big news, I'm using the Rode Broadcaster microphone. And so this is a condenser, and I have the big windscreen on it, so hopefully I'm not popping my peas. But if I do have any plosives, of course I'll remove them later with Isotope RX7. And the other thing is the HVAC unit in the basement here is all the way across the house. And normally when I use my regular RE20, it doesn't get picked up at all. But I'm wondering today, since I'm using a condenser mic, the Rode Broadcaster, I'm wondering if it's picking any of it up. And it just started about 30 seconds ago. So let me pause and see if we can hear the HVAC unit. All right, well, I'll be able to tell in post-production, but right now as I'm recording it, I have no idea. I don't think so. I mean, it might be slight. So let's get into these daily goodies. We're going to start with September 27th and go through October 9th. And again, you can get these in your email. Just go to the website and sign up. You can get a daily email or a weekly roundup for all you weekly roundup people, which I'm also one of those people. Although the daily ones are fun too. Okay, first one, marketing your podcast editing production services. Okay, so let's say you're a podcast editor or a podcast producer and you edit podcasts for clients, or maybe you just do more than editing like I do. I do more than editing. So how do you market your services? How do you get new clients? Well, here's the thing. I am no marketing expert for sure. Over the years, I've gotten many clients and, mostly through just word of mouth. I've never really mastered online marketing or email marketing or really anything. I've just been fortunate to have a background in audio and I also, I charge a lot. So that kind of weeds out the competition and then, yeah. But anyway, in general, marketing, as far as I understand it, you can either spend your money on marketing or spend your time on marketing. So it comes down between money and time. If you have a lot of money, then you can buy a lot of marketing. But if you do not have a lot of money, then you have to spend the time, right? Then you can get, social media accounts everywhere. And, you can write articles. You can you can do stuff that takes time, provide content that takes time. But, again, you got to manage your time too. So, okay. Next daily goodie. Oh, what timing. Podcast Editors Conference. Podcast Editors Conference. Say it with me, everybody. At PodFest in March of 2020, there's going to be a one-day Podcast Editors Conference. It's going to be awesome. Steve Stewart and Mark Deal are organizing it. They are from the Podcast Editors Club on Facebook group. So if you're not a part of that Facebook group, please join. It's really cool. Anyway, the cool thing about this Podcast Editors Conference, it's happening at PodFest. It's like on the pre-day. It's like there's a pre-day where like a bunch of little mini seminars are going on or mini presentations. Well, this Podcast Editors Conference is going to be the entire day. And I believe it's going to be focused on mostly the business aspects of it, not the technical part. I could be wrong. But anyway, go to the website. I think it's podcasteditorsconference.com or anyway, on my daily goodie, I have all the links and everything. But anyway, I'm happy that I'll be speaking there as well. And I'll be there hanging out. So if you come to PodFest, definitely sign up and get, and here's the thing. Apparently now, or at least for a little while, you can get a ticket to the Podcast Editors Conference and Podfest for the same price as a Podfest ticket. So it's like it's not costing you anything more to attend this one-day event for podcast editors. Anyway, you get the idea. Hope to see you in Orlando. It's going to be a lot of fun. And thank you to Steve Stewart and Mark Deal for arranging this, right? It's really good. It's the first one ever. Okay, next daily goodie, surge protectors. Well, look, sometimes your electricity can spike, especially if you live in a place like I do, I live in Colorado Springs, which is receives the second highest amount of lightning activity. I think the first is Tampa, Florida. But we're second. And that's why Nikola Tesla came here more than 100 years ago to test or to work with lightning and test it, whatever he did. So surge protectors are really helpful. And here's the thing. In most channel strips that you buy, there will be a surge protector in there. It just depends on the quality. So if you want to, if you really want to protect your gear, because here's the thing, if a spike comes through, it can actually fry some of your gear. It's very rare, okay? Honestly, it's rare. In fact, I don't even want to say what I was about to say, but it's rare, okay? But if you have some good equipment, just make sure you have a good power strip with good surge protection on the power strip. That'll help a lot. Okay, next daily goodie. By the way, are you eating turkey as I'm doing this? Okay, never mind. The air button on Focusrite Scarlett 3rd generation interfaces. Yeah, so the Focusrite came out with their 3rd gen interfaces. Of course, the one that's most popular with podcasters is the 2i2. So the 3rd generation has some nice upgrades, and one of them is the air button. It's literally a button that says air and has nothing to do with Michael Jordan. Okay? And what it does is it adds some high frequency detail. And when I say high frequency, I mean really high frequency, like 10K and above, or maybe even 12K and above. So this is really high. This is like the finest details of high frequency. It'll add some of that just to add some clarity. Now, you can't always use it though, because some microphones have enough high frequencies already and you don't need the air button. But there are microphones that are a bit darker, for instance, the SM7B or an SM58, stuff like that, where it doesn't have a ton of clarity, and maybe the air button will help with the clarity, and maybe only for certain voices, remember, because microphones match with voices. You can't judge a microphone on its own, right? It depends on the voice you put through it. So anyway, the air button, really cool feature, comes in handy with some people / microphones. All right, next daily goodie. What is the largest? Let me just read this. For your podcast, what is the largest number of participants you will want to record in the same physical space? So when people want to start a podcast, this is like the first thing I ask them. Like, are you going to record only online, or are you going to have people sitting in a physical space? And if so, how many people sitting in a physical space? Because, you don't want to have too many people, because that just gets crazy. In fact, Mike Thomas in the comments said, he says for a podcast, 4 people are enough. And a lot of people agree with that. But there are no rules, so you could do whatever you want, which is awesome. But just note that if you are going to have multiple people in one location, you should have a microphone for each person. And the microphone should be right in their face, right, close to their mouth, 2-3 inches away. Because the old way to do it, where you get a Blue Yeti and you put it in Omni mode and you stick it in the middle of the table, that is ultra horrendous. It's not just horrendous. It is ultra horrendous. So anyway, plan it out. If you're going to have more than one person in one space, plan it out. Plan your microphones, because then you got to plan your interface as well. Like if you're going to have 4 people, you got to be able to plug in 4 microphones. So something like a Focusrite 2i2 is not going to cut it, because it just only has 2 inputs. So you know what I'm saying? Plan it out, map it out, take your time, and then decide what you're going to do, then decide what equipment you need. You know the drill. Okay, next daily goodie. keeping Chrome up to date. Yeah, so Chrome, especially Squadcast and Zencaster, prefer Chrome a lot. I think they both do work with Firefox, but Chrome ends up just being usually better and easier in my experience. Anyone who's tried to use Firefox, sometimes there's problems and sometimes there's weird problems. So then we just say, can you just use Chrome? And then they use Chrome and everything's fine. But Chrome is something you have to keep up to date, and it's easy to do. I forget if you can set your Chrome to auto update. But anyway, the HVAC across the basement here just went off. Or no, it's still lingering. When it goes totally off, I'll pause again. So keep Chrome up to date. And here's the thing. These companies like Zencaster and Squadcast, they keep themselves up to date with the Chrome updates. So they know what Chrome updates are coming. They prepare for that. They tweak their stuff for that. So it all in all, it's really good to keep Chrome up to date. Okay. And the other thing is with guests connecting, same thing. You can ask them as part of your sound checking, hey, can we just check that your Chrome is up to date? And you'll have to walk them through, hey, click on those 3 dots and then go to About Chrome and then it'll say, then it'll quickly check. Chrome will itself check if it's up to date or not. Okay, the HVAC unit's off. It's pretty silent here in the basement. I'll pause for a second. Does this sound more silent? Although there is a TV on upstairs and across the house, which I can hear slightly. Maybe you can't hear it. Maybe you could. Could you hear a TV in that little space? Okay, so keep Chrome up to date. You get the idea. Do I keep repeating that this episode? You get the idea. You get the idea. All right, that's kind of lame. Sorry about that. Next daily goodie. How thoroughly should you sound check a remote guest? Well, look, I often have to sound check guests, like really often because I do it for clients. I have to sound check guests who don't have any equipment, no knowledge. They have the worst computer ever. And, I end up having to go through 14 hoops to ensure that we get a good recording. So keeping Chrome up to date is actually not something I ask them normally, unless we're having a specific problem. But anyway, this daily goodie is specifically about how thoroughly should you sound check a remote guest. And so actually I listed here, you might want to check out the written post, because here are some areas of concern with sound checking a guest. I guess I could just read them here. So these are the areas of concern: their computer health and speed, their input and output settings, whether they're wearing headphones or earbuds or nothing, their internet connection speed, the background noise present, their mic technique, and their connection method. So anyway, I typically take at least 5 minutes to sound check guests, and it can take longer. The record length of a sound check that I've ever experienced was literally 1 hour and 20 minutes, because we kept it was a nightmare, and it just became more and more of a nightmare. And then we tried to sound check his first setup for like a half an hour, and then it literally didn't work. We couldn't get it to work. And so we're like, okay, we're going to switch the entire thing, use a different mic, a different computer, whatever. And then we did that one, and there was major problems. So anyway, but that usually 5 to 10 minutes is the average for sound checks. Okay, the next one is, it's Chris's Goody Bag. Oh, this is episode 150. Okay, the next one is something that I want to, if you're playing the drinking game, get ready. Because this Daily Goody blog post is titled Gain Staging. And I know at least Ralph M. Rivera has to drink every time he hears the term gain staging. So if you ever meet Ralph at one of these events, just start talking about gain staging. Poor guy. All right, well, gain staging is the process of managing the relative levels in each step of audio signal flow. So here's let me break it down. When we record audio, the signal flows through various stages. First of all, it flows out of my mouth. My voice flows out of my mouth. Then it goes into the microphone. Then it goes through the microphone cable. Then it goes to a preamp. And from the preamp, in my channel strip, it's going to a compressor, which has basically input and output settings. Then it flows out of that into my audio interface, which has an input level. Then it flows in, then it gets recorded in my computer. And then in post-production, same thing. If you use plugins or use EQ, compression, there's all these inputs and output levels. And it's easy to screw them up. For instance, if let's say the output of my channel strip right now was really low. For some reason, the output level, I turned it almost all the way down. Well, now the level coming out of my channel strip is really, really wimpy and weak. So now when it comes to my audio interface, now I have to crank up the level. And when you take a low level and crank it up, you're also cranking up the noise floor, and just because it was low before means that there's less resolution to the signal. So keeping your input and output levels at a good level from stage to stage is key. It's like part of audio engineering 101, gain staging. So whatever equipment you have, just make sure the levels on the input and output of everything, not just hardware, but also plugins, make sure the input and output levels are set properly so you don't basically degrade the audio unnecessarily. Okay, next one. The D. Russell module in Isotope RX7 Advanced. Okay, so Isotope RX7 Advanced is what I use. I don't know if it's available in RX7 Standard, but the D. Russell module. And the D. Russell module, it was made for if they're sometimes people wear lavalier mics and they actually wear them under their shirt, not on top of the shirt, not clipped to their tie or something like that. They'll wear it under their shirt, especially with movies, right? With movie production and TV commercials and stuff. They want to hide the microphone because they don't want you to see the microphone. So if you put a lavalier mic under someone's shirt, it rubs around a little and it gets that rubbing noise, right? So that rustling sound, right? So it's called the de-rustle because this module actually removes that rustling sound. And I've used it on various problems. In fact, the de-rustle module is one that I used it on, there was someone was using a headset and they had breath noises and these thuds. Like they were kind of plosives, but they were just thuds. And sometimes I'll just try certain modules and the D-Russell is one that I'll try. Like if I don't know what to do or if I don't know how to fix something, the D-Russell is one that I'll just grab and just try it real quick. Because sometimes it just works miracles. It's pretty cool. So the D-Russell module is pretty cool. And if you have any experience with the D-Russell module, go ahead and comment on that Daily Goody post from, I think it was October 5th. Okay, next Daily Goody. Clients providing timestamps for edits. So if you are editing for clients, so first thing, there's two different types of edits. There's the just cleaning up the audio kind of edit, which is like removing ums and removing lip smacks. And if there's like a long pause, you can shorten that up a bit. I call those audio edits. They're just edits that any audio editor or producer would do because it's just obvious. But when it comes to editing out content, specific content, you can require your clients to provide timestamps for the edits. So, because if you're not the content producer, if you're just an audio editor, you can't decide. You can't say, "Oh, I don't like this question. This question is dumb, and the answer was even dumber. I'm just going to cut out this question and this answer." You can't do that, right? But the host of the show or the producer can. So you can require the host of the show to give you timestamps for edits. So maybe like cut out from 7:38 to 7:52. Just cut that out. Maybe there was maybe half of the host's question was not that great, so the host wanted to cut it out. And anyway, I do this for my clients. Works out really well. I don't know how else to do that because again, I'm not making content decisions. Okay, we're getting close to the end. Okay, Isotope Ozone 9 is now available. Well, that was from October 7th. So Isotope Ozone 9 is out. I did upgrade. Ozone 9 is basically it's mastering software, but it does have, it's kind of, well, I wouldn't call it a channel strip because it doesn't have a gate or anything like that, but it has EQ, dynamics, multiband compression, limiter, has a bunch of vintage modules. It has tape saturation, a spectral shaper. I use Ozone for the multiband compressor, the limiter, and the multiband exciter, which is cool. So anyway, Ozone 9, pretty cool. I know there was a few from Ozone 8. They did update a few things or add a few things. I didn't really pay that much attention because a lot of times what these companies add is only for music. Sometimes it's only for music, so it doesn't really apply to podcast production specifically. But anyway, Ozone 9, I use it. I like it. There you go. Next daily goodie. Explore your software. Whatever software you use to produce podcasts, you probably only use about 5 to 10% of the features within that software, right? Let's just be clear. A lot of the software that we use has a million options and a million settings and all that. It can do things, can do unbelievable things that we don't even know of, right? So the idea here is that if you use, let's say you use Reaper and you like Reaper, like I do, or maybe you use Hindenburg Journalist Pro. Maybe you could spend some time just going through and learning more in depth about that software. And you might be surprised at what you find. You'll probably find things that save time off your production time, and you might find easier ways to do things. I don't know. Has it ever happened to you? You're using a piece of software for years and then you find out, oh, there's this one command that just makes this whole thing a lot easier. So anyway, explore your software. And this is the last one we're going to cover today. What different frequency ranges sound like? So people ask me this from time to time. Non-editors and non-producers ask me, what are frequencies? What do they sound like? What do different frequencies sound like? So what I did, and you might have heard this, if you heard episode 100 of this show, you've already heard this, but if you have not heard episode 100 of the show, I encourage you to go back and listen to it. First of all, it's fun and very awesome. It's kind of a celebration of the show. But there is a whole section in there where I demonstrate what different frequencies sound like. And I just mangle my voice with an EQ, and so you can hear. And it's really telling. It's really cool. People have always found it useful. They email me. How cool that was. They never heard the frequencies before. So if you'd like to know what different frequencies sound like, different frequency ranges, not individual frequencies, although they have their own sound too. If you ever heard a 1 kilohertz tone, that's just 1 kilohertz only. But I did the frequency ranges, like the low frequencies, the low mids, the mids, the high mids, all that kind of stuff. So, all right, well, that is going to do it for us. Thank you for listening. I appreciate you listening. Rock on. I hope you produce awesome sounding podcasts. If you ever have any questions about production, just send me a note through the website, podcastengineeringschool.com. There's a contact page. Just send me a note. Send me a question. Happy to help, All right, well, get back to your family, your I don't want to say turkey. Everyone says Turkey Day. Okay. Well, enjoy your gratitude day. And I am very grateful for you listening to me. And most of all, I'm grateful that you're sort of investing in yourself to learn some advanced knowledge of audio production that will benefit you for life, really. So thank you. We'll see you.